Greetings, everyone. My name is Gerasimek. I'm an English major here, and last semester we read Dante's Divine Comedy, and I found that it was actually quite funny. And I was like, I think there's more to this. So we're going to laugh through the afterlife, and we're going to see the function of comedy in the Divine Comedy. Little overview, we're going to talk briefly about Dante Alighieri's life. We're going to be the point of comedy, and breaking down some scenes. We're going to do some close reading and really looking at the text. So who was Dante? So Dante was born late 13th and 14th century in Florence, Italy. He was poor, like a commoner. His family had had money at some point, and then they didn't have it anymore. So he wanted to kind of work his way back up in a sense. And also while he was young, he met a girl when he was about 9, about 4th grade, saw a girl named Beatrice, fell in love with her at first sight, and that's going to be important for later in the presentation. And then he got into politics, and he was Catholic. As we all know, Italy is predominantly Catholic, but he didn't agree with the Pope, and there were these political parties. It doesn't matter, but he was accused of a crime, unfortunately, and he was banished, first for a year and then for a lifetime, at the threat of being burned alive or beheaded. So he did not return. And after he lost his family, he basically lost his country, because at the time it was more like a city-state. So it'd be like being banished from the U.S. for an accused crime, right? It was very tragic. And he was a wandering lost poet. In the depths of his despair, he wrote the Divine Comedy. So what is this about again? So Dante the Pilgrim. So I'll try to distinguish between Dante the author and then Dante the Pilgrim, because it gets kind of confusing. So Dante he's on a journey. We're following him, and the point really is to purge your sins and get closer to God. He's on a mission for God. I'm going to probably be saying that quite a few times because it will become relevant. He's on mission for God. He's purging his character, and I think he's supposed to represent us as humanity. So that's going to be a key for a little bit later. So a little bit of the little architecture real quick. We have the layers of the way the afterlife, the way he saw it. So we have the inferno or hell, we have purgatory or purgatorio, and then paradise, which is heaven. So those are the three on this journey. Also, it's an epic poem, and so it was made into 3 kind of mini books. Then each book has like chapters or scenes, and those are the poems that are called cantos. So the comedy that we will kind of being discussed in some of the things we're going to be following is, if you've taken any literature, if anyone's ever told you about Dante, they say the Divine Comedy is not a comedy. It is a trope. You have comedies and tragedies. Tragedies we know end poorly, comedies that end well. Doesn't mean that they're funny. And I think it's actually in some ways a disservice when looking at this text, because your brain turns things off and you're now missing a part of a different literary perspective. So we can look deeper. We're going to follow Dante. Some of the things he does is he breaks the fourth wall. I can't not think of Ferris Bueller when reading this text. He talks about, he asks about current events and politics, like what are the election returns in Florence, to souls who can only see the past and the future, and he does it quite a few times. And that leads me to my last point that's going to be very relevant. He is slow to learn. He is not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and that's a lot of the comedy. We're going to talk about why. So I'll structure the surface level, how things are kind of surface level funny, and then I'm going to be talking about the possible deeper meaning. So the Inferno, let's start from the beginning. In Canto 5, Dante faints after hearing the tragic story of these 2 lovers, and they're whisked in the skies, as you see above, as you see the up here above, and he faints. And I just think of like Goofy or any of those like cartoons when their eyes roll in the back of their head and they fall. But this starts with so that's like objectively kind of funny, but this is the beginning of just kind of his baseline. He doesn't have. We're going to be looking at pride and moral superiority and the irony of those things, right? So he's very innocent and he's overwhelmed, which is understandably. Like it's understandable you're in hell. Then we go to Filippo Argenti. I think of Monty Python, so imagine with me Monty Python with this. And so they're on the river Styx. Virgil is his guide. He was a poet, and he looked up to him, and so he's on his way through it. And they're on a boat, and this soul comes up, and he says, "Who are you that you come before your time?" And I replied, "If I come, I do not remain, but you, who are you, so fallen and so foul?" And "I'm the one who weeps." So he gets rejected, right? And then he doubles down. He doesn't just say, okay, shut him up, but he doubles down and says, "May you weep and wail for all eternity, for I know you, hell dog, filthy as you are." Then he stretched out both hands on the boat, but warily the master. So now Virgil's in on this. And he says, "Down, down with the other dogs," when he embraces me, saying, "Indignant spirit, I kiss you as you frown." Right? I just think of down, down, like Monty Python, like it's kind of funny, but also now we're seeing only a few cantos later that his pride, and now this "I'm better than you" is starting to develop anymore. He calls him as low as a dog, right? He now is kind of owning the space and kind of knows what's going on. Then we're going to look at the one scene in the Divine Comedy that does not have Dante being kind of stupid. And it's when they're going on these cliffs and they're looking at these demons. This is kind of at the end. "And they swung their forks, saying to one another, 'Shall I give him a touch in the rump?' And answering, 'Sure, give him a taste to pay for his bother.'" Right? They're literally talking about poking the torching people by poking them in the butt. Okay, it's funny, okay, objectively. And then it was in literature, of the time, medieval literature, trumpets and fart jokes are very well known. If you look at Chaucer, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And then they have to set off the left-hand bank, but first each pressed one's tongue between his teeth to blow the sound to their leader, and he had made a trumpet of his asshole. This is John and Jean and Robert Hollander, okay? He made a trumpet, so instead of he had a trumpet come out of his butt, right? Funny. It transcends time. But what I'm trying to get at the deeper meaning of all of this is when angels use the trumpet for the glory of God out of their mouth, the demon is blaspheming it. It's showing how where he is on the side of this, how it's a serious moment, but it's funny, all woven into this one canto. This is objectively one of my favorite scenes. So Dante is finally at the last layer of hell. It's a frozen wasteland, and there's these people sticking out, as you can see. And Virgil, right before this, says, "Hey, watch out, there's people stuck here." And he, like a bumbling idiot, actually kicks somebody in the head, and that's where we pick up. "Who are you who curses so?" And who are you going through the dead lard of Antonoria, kicking the cheeks of other so hard that if you were alive, could you not kick harder? The same "who are you" gets come back, right? He's being pushed back. These guys are betrayers. These are not good people, right? And he says, "I'm alive, and if you seek fame, may the precious of you all about else, that my notes may on ascent include your name." Height. He's like, I'm so awesome. I'm going to write about this. And, if you want to become famous because I'm so awesome. We have seen his pride. Remember, he's on a journey for God. You would think he'd be getting more holy rather than less. And then he grabbed the hair of the dog's ruff, and I said, "Either you tell me who you are, or you won't have any hair left on your head." Now he's torturing it. This is the peak of pride. And it's objectively kind of funny, but also it is a very serious moment that's showing his character development. So let's go on over to Purgatorio. So Virgil has never really gone out of hell. He was a soul in limbo, and he knows the hell territory, but purgatory is not his jam. And these other people, and now they're spirits, that is actually one distinction. They asked him, "Do you know where we're going?" And they're like, "No, we just got here." Right? It's kind of funny because he's the guide, right? But I think what Dante, the deeper meaning is that on our journey of enlightenment, sometimes the people that are around us don't know what they're doing as well, right? And then Dante sees an old friend, and he was like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" And he tries to hug him. Not once, not twice, but 3 times, just 3 times. It's funny, because he just touched a guy's hair, but now he can't hug his friend, and it's just not clicking in his brain. This kind of trope kind of comes up again a little bit later. And that, I think, it represents the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the Trinity, the three times, and not being able to grasp the whole Trinity. And then Dante gets tired. So him and Virgil are going up the mountain of purgatory. As we know in classic Catholic teaching is, purgatory is supposed to be hard. You're supposed to cleanse yourself and make yourself ready for God, right? And he's complaining. He says, "Exhausted I complained. Beloved Father, turn around and see how I'll be left unless you pause. My son," he said, "drag yourself up here," pointing to the ledge a little higher, from which the place encircles all the hill. He's like, we got places to be. It's supposed to be hard. Let's go, right? He doesn't, it's funny because he's in purgatory and he's complaining about it being hard, but the deeper meaning is his resistance towards purging his fleshly ways, right? And how humanity doesn't want to do the hard thing to become closer to God at times. Paradise. We only have a few more. Dante is confused about the souls. So he gets to heaven, and Beatrice, he's there with Beatrice, and again, he's enamored with Beatrice. You'll see it very much so. And he looks behind him, and then he looks in front of him, and he was like, oh, I thought they were oh, they're just really faint. I guess they're kind of like ghosts. Like, he's lost still. He just tried to hug his friend 3 times, and he's in heaven, and so he's still like not realizing that they're spirits, that they're don't have physical bodies. And I think that kind of can represent how it's hard for us to imagine what heaven's going to be like, or like the aspects of souls and bodies and like the separation of those two, right? That's kind of a hard thing to understand. Again, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but don't worry, it gets worse. Beatrice is over Dante. So all of these pictures I found that were correlated, the artist, right? And this is what he drew, and I think it represents this scene perfectly. I would like to know if one can satisfy your court with other such words or vows left unfulfilled, that your scale of weight would not be scant. That's a really fancy word to say. You got to heaven, say this is all you got? He was unimpressed with heaven. That's pretty arrogant, right? And then he's like, as he's not listening, he's like, Beatrice looked at me with eyes so full of radiance and love so divine that overcome my power of sight faded and fled, and eyes cast down, I almost lost my senses. He was like, oh, she's pretty, right? It's kind of funny. He didn't even respond to it. Like, he just completely ignored it. And how he's literally in heaven, he's not impressed, and he's only worried about a pretty girl. And I feel like in life, right, that's how it can be for us. We're so enamored with the things around us. And then jumping to later, they're on this journey, and then Beatrice realizes that he's really not getting it. So she goes up to heaven, like goes towards God, and he starts to panic. And he's like, where is she? It's like, she's up there, bro. And instead of literally looking on the face of God, like the shining the glory of God, he goes, oh, there she is. She's still really pretty. He's literally looking at the face of God, and he's still worried about a girl, right? It's kind of funny, his panic, all those things, but the deeper meaning is, even when we're like trying to understand and looking at God, our own ways are still like blinding us. And the very last, this is the last stanza of the entire epic poem, right? And it's so underwhelming, right? T.S. Eliot said, this is the way the world ends, not a bang, but a whimper. He probably got it from Dante. And he says, here my exalted lost all its power. And now my will and desire, like wheels revolving with the even motion, were turning with the love that moves the sun and all the other stars. His will and desire finally became one with God. And the last stanza, I mean, if I was looking at the face of God, and I would probably be dumbfounded, but it goes off to the trope that he wasn't, again, that he just can't grasp, that we cannot grasp. We would be dumbfounded, and that humanity doesn't have the words. There are no words to be able to show the glory of God. That's what I think the deeper meaning is. So the final thoughts. What was the main point of comedy in all of this, right? It was being able to bring people together, to have all of these things, but also to make you think deeper. And the point of contention that was so funny was that we were laughing at how dumb Dante was. But are we any better than him for the pride that we feel looking at how dumb Dante is? So the divine summary: who was Dante? The point, the layers of the afterlife, some sections of the Commedia, and really comedy's role in driving the plot lesson. And I want to leave you with the opening stanza. I'll leave this with you. Midway in the journey of our life, I came to myself in a dark wood, for the straight way was lost. Thank you.